Good evening, gentle listeners, and welcome to the Petty Cash Podcast. For today, I am your host, Vinny, aka VCG Cosplay. Today, I am joined none other than my good friends, Danny, Joseph, and Charles.
Hello. What up?
How are you gentlemen doing today?
I'm tired. I woke up roughly 2 hours ago. And I wake up to Charles bombarding me with messages from freaking 12:30 in the morning. So thank you for blowing up my phone the second I turn it on.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Other than that, last night me, Joe, and Charles played another section of The Quarry, and that was both fun and stressful. So
Fun.
yeah, doing that every Friday on my Wildman channel.
Yeah.
And definitely check that one out. For me, I'm freaking burning up right now because it's hot right now in Arizona. Yeah, no, it's Planet Hoth cold in here.
And I thought it smelled bad on the outside.
But yeah, no, it's fine right now. So, Charles, what about you?
You want to tell me about burning up? I'm just trying to survive without my air conditioning in my car until they get the part in.
Preach.
So, yeah, that was no fun, just having my air conditioning just one day go from working to not. And took it in, and they said, oh, we couldn't find anything wrong, but it was out of Freon. And I'm like, okay, that's weird, but whatever. I get in my car to pull out of the garage, which I took it to the dealership, by the way, so it wasn't just some fly-by-night place. This was a dealership I've dealt with before, and they usually treat me pretty good. So I was like, okay, they said they didn't find anything, should be no big deal. I go to turn on my AC, AC's blowing hot air, and it's whistling. And I'm like, what the heck? And so I call the guy over. He listens to it, they look at it, and they're like, okay, let's take it back. They took it back, found out, oh, it's some part that's buried up inside the dash. And so therefore, they're going to have to order the part, and then they're going to have to take the dash out of my car. So,
Bummer.
yay. So I'm waiting for that sometime next week, hopefully Monday or Tuesday. They'll get the part in, and then I got to take it in. And they said it's going to take roughly about 10 hours to do all that work. So, fun. Yes.
Yeah, it's typically the way it runs here in Arizona, because like my car, it's a little Black Sonic and it heats up like crazy, and the air conditioning on mine was just terrible. Anyways, moving on to our topic. So today, gentlemen, I want to talk about something that a majority of us grew up on, something that creeps within our nightmares, within the books that we've read. Today, I want to talk about the 30 years of Goosebumps.
Is this year the actual official 30th anniversary?
Yeah, this year's the 30th anniversary. They actually have a special convention in New York with R.L. Stine signing books, marking this year's the 30th anniversary, and there's even a special hardcover book coming out for it.
All right, cool.
Making you feel all old out.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm in my prime.
For a majority of people, that did not grow up with Goosebumps, they grew up with, Stephen King books, And what's funny is Stephen King and R.L. Stine had that competitive back and forth of who created the best scary books. I actually got papers this time. So, full credit goes to this channel named Nightmare Fueled Entertainment. I actually got a lot of pinpoint information from this specific video of the 30th anniversary with Goosebumps that I wanted to share with you guys. I thought was really entertaining. And again, I actually recommend watching this video for the most part. So, going through here, R.L. Stine was named Bob Stine. Wanted to be a comic book illustrator, and he wrote a lot of this stuff down, and pretty much everybody said he sucked. Because he would draw his own stuff, he would create his own things, and everybody said he wasn't that good at it, but he still kept going with it. After he graduated from New York, he went on to create the humor magazine called Bananas until it was canceled. And then after Bananas, his friend, who was the editor-director of Scholastic's, Jean Feiwel, she asked him to write scary novels for teenagers, and 3 months after that, he would create his first horror novel that became the #1 seller called The Blind Date. And then he would continue making those #1 sellers again and again and again because they thought it was just first-time luck. But so he went from comedy to horror, and I find this fascinating because, Danny, Scott Cawthon.
Cawthon,
Yeah. Sorry, I'd say Cawthon because of Markiplier. He did the same thing. He was trying to create a kid's video game, and then he got the comments back saying it was more creepy. So he went from making it child friendly to horror, and that became The Legend of Five Nights at Freddy's, which I find just fascinating how that's the repeated history of people that try to make something good and humorous to something horrifying and nightmarish, and it becomes iconic as hell. So R.L. Stein's wife and her business partner at Parachute Press were demanding that Stein creates a horror novel for little kids at the ages of 7 to 12 years old. And he was just like, I don't want to make kids books that are scary. I got something good going on here with Fear Street. Because in 1989, he had his own book issues called Fear Street. And it was, again, all directed towards teenagers. And they were just #1 sellers on the spot.
Isn't there Fear Street movies or like miniseries
Yes.
now?
Yeah.
On Netflix. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, I found this out too. R.L. Stein wrote the novel of Ghostbusters 2.
The novelization of the movie?
Yeah. Yeah, I had no idea. I thought that was absolutely fascinating. So, again, Miss Stein pretty much nagged at him, and he would keep saying no. And finally he said, all right, fine, I'll write it up. And he's sitting there trying to figure out what to call this book. I mean, that's probably the hardest part. He said, if I could come up with a title, then I'll do it. And so he was going through a TV ad guide, and he found the ad that said, it's Goosebumps Week on Channel 11. Ding. Yeah, as soon as he read the word Goosebumps, he was like, that's it. It's childish, but it's also adult. It borderline that perfect lineup of what it needed to be. And so he wrote the first Goosebump book, which was Welcome to Haunted House. And it arrived on shelves in 1992. No sales for months. It sat there. There was no advertisement for this book whatsoever. And so they would write 3 more books, and they would just sit there. And at this point, they were having some serious discussion about pulling this off the shelf and saying, all right, Goosebumps, done. It didn't work. Then just after that, 4 months in, or a few months in, it finally just clicked. Like, as soon as one kid reads those books, it becomes like word of mouth fire spread. Mm-hmm. Every kid was buying these Goosebumps books and demanded more. So after 2 years, they began to sell 4 million copies every month. 4 million copies. And that's one of the things that R.L. Stein's really proud of, is that he sells the most books. And it's really fascinating on that terms. And after the sex took off, companies got involved with the marketing of Goosebumps. So again, here's the funny thing too. There was no money involved for the marketing. None at all.
It was literally just word of mouth.
Yeah, it was just word of mouth. And as soon as that book became popular, everybody started catching in. From Taco Bell to restaurants and food chains, you name it. Even Pizza Hut had the special Goosebumps advertising where if you went in the stores, you could get a free mask and you get to have the special ice cream. Like, that was Pizza Hut back then. Pizza Hut back then was...
Pizza Hut. I didn't know what you said. Like, Pizza Hut.
Oh, sorry. Pizza Hut.
Pizza the Hut.
Pizza Hut back then was the bomb when it came to advertising and food industry for pizza. Like, when you went in and dined, it was a whole different experience.
Well, they also had that book reading program, Book It, right?
I think so.
Yes, yeah. they did have something like that. Yeah, where like if you read books and then I can't remember how you had to provide proof. Like your parents or somebody had to sign off on it that you read so many books, and you'd get rewards and stuff. Yeah,
that's right.
Yep.
That was back in the day.
Personal pan pizza. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with personal pan pizza.
And then the do-it-yourself toppings kind of thing. Like, that was so cool.
You can still do that, I think.
Kind of. It wasn't like the way Pizza Hut was set up back then. It was a whole different experience.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't ordered from Pizza Hut in a while. So
Yeah, it's a whole different bread and
I
butter
only
today.
got a box from them recently.
Yeah. So with the following success of Goosebumps, audiobooks were made by Disney, no less. And there was a live...
Had balls.
Yeah. Yeah, you right. They even did live shows at Disneyland during the Halloween season for Goosebumps. Like, they actually had live entertainment where you could see Slappy, the Executioner, and all that stuff. It was pretty cool looking if you look up the YouTube videos. And there was even a live action video game directed by Steven Spielberg, no less. And it starred Jeff Goldblum.
What?
I'm not even kidding.
Like a video game?
Yes, it was a live recording of a video game for the computer, and Jeff Goldblum was Dracula.
Oh, was it an FMV, like a full motion video game?
I don't know. I assume.
Story of DreamWorks' first video game. Yeah, Goosebumps. The story of here it is. Like, Goosebumps Escape from Horrorland. No. I was just saying the title of the book. It was just Goosebumps Escape from Horrorland. And of course, they used the image of
Jurassic World.
Yeah, July 16, 1993. Yeah,
wow,
that was it. Oh man,
That's amazing. Man, I was I want to say I was 3 years old by then.
that wasn't even a thing.
You weren't conceived yet.
Nope.
Let's see, what, in 93?
Yeah.
I would have been 9. Yeah,
9?
9 years
Really?
old, yep.
Wow.
F5.
Oh man, that's crazy. So with the following of that video game, merchandise became a huge thing, from baseball hats to masks, costumes, toys, you name it. And then the head of Fox Kids, Margaret Losch, 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 I think it's spelled correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
She saw the success in Goosebumps and realized there could be more potential for it. And thus, we got the most iconic TV show of all time, which was the live action show. And they greenlit Goosebumps, the TV series, and the first episode was The Haunted Mask.
Yeah, of
and
course.
that night, the Crypt Keeper himself was the host. Like, he was making the countdown.
Yeah, back then, Fox TV, you could find all the old commercials that they did for Halloween. I think it was sponsored by either Bud or Coors, but I mean, no, it was not for the kids show, but like their late night programming. So like X-Files was in on it. I think they had like Married with Children, but you can look it up all on YouTube, like Fox, like the Fox channel, like Halloween, like the 90s were just. Yeah, all the sitcoms, they were all, and the TV shows, they were all in on it. So
All the shows back then had like Halloween episodes, like Family Matters, all that. Like every sitcom had either like all the ones that ABC or Fox had. I think specifically with ABC on this one, each sitcom had a Disney episode where they went to one of the parks, and each show had a Halloween-centric episode.
And a Christmas episode, too.
Yes, those two. Like, basically all the holidays, almost.
And you really have to thank the show Roseanne for actually kickstarting the whole Halloween.
Oh, they're the first ones that did that?
Yep, they did. Oh. Yeah, so...
That's awesome.
And like, look at their stuff that they did. I mean, some of it was very, very creative.
I love their Halloween episodes.
No, you have to watch it. I think there's a total of like eight of them. 8 of them. Yeah, so they're really funny. Definitely check them out. I think they got like a little DVD, kind of hard to find, but I mean, you could still purchase it. So definitely be on the lookout for it.
That's awesome.
That is really awesome. I still remember the Halloween episode from Family Matters with Steve-O, that little dummy.
Oh, that was like one of the later ones.
Yeah,
yes.
I remember that. That was that was creepy.
Carl's bad.
Oh yeah, that's right. There was an evil little Carlton dummy.
Oh my god.
No, Winslow. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Carlton was
Fresh Prince.
Oh, that's right. Popularity went sky high with fans and controversial adults.
Of course.
Because when you give kids something scary, parents become concerned.
Children shouldn't be watching this.
Exactly. Not even just watching the books. Like, as soon as they see the cover titles, they get, concerned, and then they read it. Yeah.
That was, and as you said, Vinny, like most of us, grew up on Goosebumps. I was the one that didn't, and precisely for that, because my mom, she saw those covers because I heard about it in school. And I was like, oh man, this is so popular and everything. And I remember the book fairs. Like, do you guys remember the book fairs?
The Scholastic Book Fair.
Yep. And I saw those books, and I remember I brought them to my mom, and she looked at the covers, and she's like, "No, you're not reading those." Exactly. Exactly.
I want a scary book.
Right. And so so that's the reason why I never read any of those books. And it wasn't until the television show came out that I was able to see some of the episodes. But by then I kind of missed out on that initial nostalgia, sort of thing with the books. And so I was like, oh, this is kind of cool and interesting, stories. But yeah, so I'm basically that line right in there where my mom was like, nope.
Well, I think the funny thing is, it's completely understandable for parents wanting to protect their kids from something that'll scare them from the depths of their own nightmares. But this is a legitimate quote. If you watch again the YouTube video that talks about the history of Goosebumps from Nightmare Fuel Entertainment, he literally has a clip of this guy on a radio show saying, "Satan's giving your children unnatural, irrational, ungodly goosebumps." And I'm sitting there going, Jesus Christ. You could not, when you listen to this guy, you're like, man, you sound like a complete workover, man. Good God.
This guy sounds just like the ones, I saw, was it a preacher that was going against Pokemon?
Yeah.
And then also the frequent things about D&D and stuff like that,
Yeah, he was pretty much one of those preachers that talks about, out of his mouth. He was pretty much a Peck. Is the best word we use for this group. He was a Walter Peck of this whole
Shut this down. Shut this all down.
Yeah, pretty much. And you would see, parents and kids fighting against each other, saying whether it's good enough for them. And it's if the they're saying that it teaches their kids violence and horror and, satanic worship and shit. But it's if you're not reading the books and understanding what it is, then you really shouldn't even be preaching about that. There is one perfect example right here. A lot of parents back then, after Goosebumps, was against Harry Potter because it taught magic and sorcery. That became such a huge controversial thing with the church, and it was why? It's just kids going to a magic school fighting against evil. And so this is a perfect example of this. I remember this as an actual headline. A mother and her daughter were huge Harry Potter fanatics. They read every single book.
Yep.
And there was a book that came out called Perry Trotter. It was a Harry Potter knockoff.
Harry Trotter.
I'm not even
Why does
kidding.
that sound familiar?
It was a complete knockoff of Harry Potter, right down to the cover. And as she's reading it, she reads a line to her daughter and instantly stops and read it to herself quietly and then shuts the book slowly and says, "Hon, I don't think we can read this anymore. Why don't we go to bed?" This book actually had demonic, rituals to the devil, sacrificial shit. This was a legit, satanic cult kind of thing. Because she would read the entire book herself and highlight certain words and realize that this was not a good book for kids specifically. And this is a really good example of whether it's good or bad. Harry Potter, again, is on the same terms as Goosebumps. It's right.
A shameless parody.
Yeah. It was just one of those perfect examples of whether or not read what is actually out there instead of judging it by its cover.
Well, I've also got one too, kind of along the lines of that, but it was, I think it was for the 5th book, I believe. There's Barnes & Noble was having their, it was a launch party sort of thing, and it's at midnight the book goes on sale, and tons of people were camped out at the Barnes and Noble, just wandering around. Everyone was stoked. Some people were dressed up, and Barnes and Noble, in their infinite wisdom, figured it would be a good idea to put next to the Harry Potter books all of the other magical related books. The problem was that some of them were actually not kid-related materials. Some of them were actually Wiccan and other things like that. And I remember I was standing there and this little girl sees one of these books and she grabs it and she runs up to her mom and is like, "Can we get this?" And I see the cover of it, and it was intro to Wiccan and other witchcraft or something like that. I can't remember the exact title of it, but it was obviously no, this is not
adults.
And the mom's like, no, honey, no, we're not getting this book. And the little girl's like trying to justify it, saying like, oh no, this is just, harmless stuff, like from the book. And they're like, no. The mom's saying, no, it's not. And I'm sitting there just, hand in my face, just like, oh my gosh, why would you do that?
Marketing campaign, man. It's all about marketing and making money for the books.
Yeah, Barnes & Noble just wants to make a quick buck off a bunch of books that are clearly going to go in the clearance section. And not to knock on people who do practice weekend and all that other stuff. I mean, if you want to believe in that, go ahead. But not my or any of these guys' cup of tea. No. So, and it's funny, like, whenever, like, parents these days, they're like, don't read that or anything like that. We all know, like, hey, you don't see me what I do at school and all that. So you kind of want to, like, look at the stuff you kind of like refrain from, like, don't see it and all that. So you're just like, don't watch this scary movie. Don't watch Freddy or Jason and all that. Back then it was like, I'm going to take a peek and see, So yeah, just getting a lot of the mischievous, kind of antics and all that. I mean, hell, like, watch RoboCop at a young age and all that. I was one of those bad-mouthed kids, still have it to this day, like quoting Clarence Boddicker and like, all the other bad shit that happened. But, yeah, I mean, with these books, I mean, what was it? Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark and Goosebumps, Fear Street. Yeah, I mean, my first introduction with, like, Goosebumps, my sister, she had them just like on her desk and all that, and some of the covers were just like, ooh, this is interesting and all that. Just kind of read it and all that. And those are kind of like the earlier books that like helped me out, like reading and all. I mean, other than comic books. But yeah, like, I mean, for you bringing up Goosebumps right now, I mean, I know there's kind of like a little resurgence now.
Yeah, and that's why. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. Like, there's still more to talk about this, but there is a resurgence I noticed coming up, and I thought it was absolutely fascinating. So I was like, you know what? Let's talk about this and let's bring it up.
Do you think part of that is to do with the recent 2 movies that Fox came out with a couple years ago?
It was Sony. Sony did the movies.
I thought it was Fox.
No, and here's the reason why I know this. It's Paramount and Sony, and what makes this fascinating is if you watch Goosebumps 2, which I'll get to the movies in a minute, but there is a little cameo of Ghostbusters and Spider-Man in Goosebumps 2 as a merch. Yeah. So, continuing on with the little history buff here. Scholastics and Parachute Press actually fought over the rights of Goosebumps because Scholastics was the main owner of Goosebumps, publishing it, and the Parachute Press was the company that started it. So there was this huge lawsuit with Goosebumps going on, and it caused a lot of issues with contracts and rights and all that stuff. And because of this, we lost a Goosebumps movie that could have been made in the 90s by none other than Tim Burton.
That could have been really
Dude,
actually.
the fact we could have gotten a Goosebumps movie made by Tim Burton, I'm sitting here just like, damn it.
He's trying to make Planet of the Apes, so
Yeah.
look how that turned out.
Hey, the making of that movie made it.
Yeah, but like, imagine like a Goosebumps Tim Burton movie. That would have been so creepy.
Superman Lives, but
That too. But hey, we're getting an Addams Family project from Tim Burton at least.
Oh yeah, the trailer for that really kind of got me like, eek.
What trailer? There's only been one thing with Thing and Wednesday.
Well, yeah, I consider that a little bit of a teaser.
Teaser, yeah, but not a trailer.
Yeah, I agree. You right. So, after all that craziness went down, R.L. Stine would try to write more books, but then the Goosebumps stories would stop in January 2000 with 2 stories. And then, following with that, R.L. Stine created The Nightmare Room, and then Goosebumps relaunched in 2008 with their series called Horrorland.
Oh, yeah.
And those kids during that time really got into Goosebumps, so it had its resurgence. It died in the 90s with us, and then had a resurgence in around near 2010.
Okay, so late 2000s, early 2010s.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, of course, in 2015, we got the release for the Goosebumps movie starring Jack Black, featured by Paramount and Sony. Became #1 movie in America, and then Goosebumps 2 in October of 2018. Now here we are, 30 years later, Goosebumps still strong with kids reading books, learning how to read books through it, and then us being the adults who grew up with Goosebumps it's just really fascinating to sit here and see Goosebumps have such a wonderful resurgence 30 years later. And it's like, I really wanted to bring this up and talk to you guys about it and just get your opinion on your experiences with Goosebumps. Like, just talk about like what book you first read, what scared you about Goosebumps, what your thought is on it for today. And also with Disney now coming out with the Disney Plus live action series and supposedly getting the movies onto Disney Plus. Supposedly, I'm not 100% sure on that.
So right now you can watch it on Amazon. It's not on Disney Plus yet.
Okay. So Amazon right now is where you can watch Goosebumps and Goosebumps 2. But there is an interesting topic I want to bring up about Goosebumps going to Disney Plus. But for now, I want to see if any of you guys want to talk about it.
I remember reading the Goosebump books in elementary school. I can't remember what the first one I read was, but I remember two of my favorite ones was The Werewolf of Fever Swamp and Deep Trouble. Love those two books, and both of those books were adapted in the original live-action series from Fox Kids.
Yes, they were.
Werewolf of Fever Swamp out of the two was the better adapted one, but with Deep Trouble. For those that hadn't read that one, Deep Trouble is about these two kids and their uncle, I think, on this like fishing trip or they're on this like boat trip, whatever, in the middle of the ocean. They capture a mermaid. They keep it like contained on the ship in this like tank. Like the nephew starts getting really interested in it. I think he wants to release it. I think he eventually does. It's been so long since I've read these books, but I remember the episode of the show. It dealt with human fish experimentation instead of like straight up mermaids while they're on a vacation. So I was like, that disappointed me the most. I was like, okay, this is completely different from the book. But the Werewolf Fever Swamp TV episode, that one was fairly accurate to the source material. And I remember growing up in elementary school, all those like book fairs. During one of the book fairs, they had this graphic novel 3 Goosebump edition where it had Werewolf of Fever Swamp, The Children of the Cornfield, I think that was one of those called, and then I think the Abominable Snowman one. I forget the titles of some of the other ones, but those Goosebumps really can lend itself to an awesome graphic novel adaptation. I wish I remember where that was. I can't remember if it's at my parents' house or if I still have that, but the graphic novel version of the Werewolf Fever Swamp was so cool. The art style for the werewolf itself was really well done. Now, I have not seen the 2 Goosebump movies, but I know the Werewolf Fever Swamp is in those 2 movies. One thing that kind of bothers me, I forget if he wears pants or shorts or not, but
He wears shorts.
he also wears bright red like Converse sneakers. I'm like, I know this is technically supposed to be like a children's horror movie. I know these are children's horror books, but how I always pictured the werewolf in that story and how the graphic novel depicted it, that thing did not have sneakers.
It was bare as well.
It was a straight up werewolf.
Yeah.
Well, in the movie, like it does show, like say here my hand is the foot and this is the back heel. The shoe pretty much broke through, so the shoe's like stuck right here on its heel.
But still, he's wearing a freaking broken sneaker. Take it off.
You know what though? I blame for the movie. I do blame that one Sony exec was like, the werewolf is naked. Put some clothes on it. It's kind of like like I know there was like a story following up with like going back with like Star Wars. There was someone who had made a comment at Fox who said something about like Chewbacca being naked. Why doesn't he wear clothes? Why is there always that one movie exec that just it's
That one dude.
that one dude,
I mean,
one
he has
lady,
he has
whatever.
a bandolier, but
naked. We don't see anything.
we never see Chewie's hairy cheeks.
Was there anything that you wanted to add to Goosebumps or?
I think I basically said my piece on it. I've enjoyed Goosebumps. I wouldn't mind owning the ones I fondly remember, like those 2, The Werewolf of Fever Swamp and Deep Trouble. But I wonder with this new Disney Plus series if they're just going to do the same thing again and just adapt all the books into like singular, if not like 2-part episodes, or if this is going to be like under the Goosebumps name with like familiar characters but brand new stories. I don't know. Do you know anything about that, Vinny?
No, I don't really know anything about this other than the fact that Disney Plus is working on it. They did show the image of Slappy from the movie, so I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, if they're adapting Sony's live action adaptations, then we're probably going to get the book adaptations, but using the live action imageries of those characters, especially Slappy the Dummy, of course. But adding to your Goosebumps movie thing, one, Danny, if you want to do a reaction on your YouTube channel to watching those movies with me, I'm down for it. But when they see the werewolf in Fever Swamp, it's one of my favorite scenes because Jack Black just grabs a can of Axe and starts spraying himself like crazy and goes, "At the werewolf fever swamp, he can smell my scent." And he's going overboard with the axe. And if you use that stuff, you know you choke on it. And he's going all out, like spraying the air, walking through it, and then he goes, no use, I have to hide, and just throws the can. I'm like, dude, you must be in terror. You must be in pain just smelling that shit.
Now, I haven't seen the movies. I mean, I saw a couple of clips and trailers. I mean, yeah, there was like the grocery store scene where all the monsters are like chasing like our characters and everything. But I definitely do want to check out those two movies. But yeah, I said it before my introduction was my sister who usually bought the books from like the Scholastic Book Fair. That was just my introduction, but I do remember one particular one was Attack of the Mutant, just because I remember like it was the one with like some superhero looking dude, but like of course reading the back of the book, oh that's the mutant, that's the bad guy and all that, and so I read like the back of the book, comics, Skipper Matthews, and I was just like, okay, comic book shit, I'm a comic book guy, this might be my cup of tea and all that, and that was when I was just like, oh wait, he's the the super villain comic, now in the real world and stuff. So I was just like, okay, cool. Like I definitely want to check this out. Read it, loved it. Of course, when it came to the Fox kids program that actually showed the adaptation of it, it was a 2-parter. And of course, I remember the voice of the superhero that gets caught in it. And of course, it was played by none other than Batman himself from '66. West. Hell yeah, man, Adam West, dude. Oh, like you could just hear like Adam West, just his dialogue, like, oh my God, Robin, no, just I don't know, that was a poor impression, but he, that got me hooked. I don't know, the Kid vs. Skipper is all right, I guess, but all the books that like kind of like draw me, huge. Definitely want to point out Tim Jacobson was the guy who did the art for all the covers of the books. Oh, cool. So definitely looked him up on Instagram, and I was like, oh, okay. They created like a collection of all his art pieces. Oh, cool. That caught our imaginations as kids. But I do remember Haunted Mask 2, Stay Out of the Basement, and You Can't Scare Me.
Oh, The Cuckoo Clock of Doom, another good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember those covers.
Oh, dude, it's like I just remember like the Halloween like advertisements for like the Haunted Mask. The girl, I couldn't take it off, and I'm like, dumb bitch.
So real quick, the reason why Stein created that was because he would actually watch his son hang out with his friends, and he would get inspirations for the shenanigans they would get up to. He put on a Frankenstein mask and it got stuck, and he's watching his son like throw himself on the floor trying to rip the mask off, and he says in the interview, he's like, I should be the good parent helping my son, but I was just too entertained by my son trying to rip that off, and that's where I came up with the Haunted Mask.
And I was just looking at all the books, and I think Haunted Mask was the only one that got a sequel. Because
I think you're right.
Yeah. I would like to see, him doing a sequel to the others. I mean, not Attack of the Mutant or per se, but it was just like, I just want to see like many of the others. I think there was another one.
Night of Living Dummy 2 and 3.
Oh, yeah, him. It was Slappy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I got my fair share with Chucky, so seeing this one, it didn't. And Talking Tina from Twilight Zone, so I was like, okay,
another talking dummy.
Yeah, or the dummy that's in the intro of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh my God.
It's just this little clown, little puppet, like, and then that's it. It's just like a millisecond of it.
Okay, so I did a little bit more research on the Disney Plus series. So I didn't know R.L. Stine already had a show on Disney Plus. So following the success of R.L. Stine's Just Beyond Disney Plus series, another series from the author is now heading to Disney Plus, and it's Goosebumps. The new series has been in development since April 2020 and has a 10-episode order for Disney Plus. Ooh. And of course, they had that like slime picture to promote it, like, "Hey, we're going to be making a Goosebumps show."
It looks like Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it does look like ectoplasm. The new Goosebumps series follows a group of 5 high schoolers who unleash supernatural forces upon their town and must all work together, thanks to and in spite of their friendship, rivalries, and past with each other, in order to save it, learning much about their own parents' teenage secrets in the process. The new series is being written by Nick Stoller and Rob Lederman, who are also executive producers on the show. Rob Lederman will also direct the first episode. He previously directed the 2015 Goosebumps film. So it's basically going to be just an overarching story with like elements from the Goosebumps world. I think that's fine, but me personally, just do better what the original series did. Just adapt the stories again.
Well, so here's the thing about that. Rob Litterman, I actually trust him on this project 100% because the way he directed the Goosebumps movie, it feels like an actual Goosebumps story. It has the same tones, just a little bit more matured and bettered from the 90s. So I'm actually really excited to see what he does with this series. I'm actually really excited for it. But yeah, no, Joe, relating back to my history of Goosebumps, I remember reading as a kid, the Night of Living Dummy. I didn't touch those books because, as you said, Chucky petrified the living hell out of me when I was a kid. So anything of like possessed, creepy dolls, I just stayed away from. And I was legit locked in a garage with one, and the lights were shut off. So that kind of cemented my fear of evil dolls and things like that. And when I saw the cover of Night of the Living Dummy, I was just like, nope. But I do remember reading Werewolf of Fever Swamp. That was a really good story. Yeah. And then I read the Mummy one, and I saw the other covers. And when you're a kid with autism and you see things, your mind tends to exaggerate your visuals. And so when I see those covers, it was like Goosebumps went on steroids. Like, it really did freak me out. But now that I'm older and I'm looking at these books, one, I admire the hell out of the art because there is nothing like that on this earth anymore for book covers. They're just drastically bright and drastically shadowed, and that they just look absolutely amazing. And I do remember those school fair books where Scholastics would come in.
School fair books.
Sorry.
Book fair?
Book fairs, thank you. Sorry, my brain was taking a little fart there. Hang on. So so when Scholastics would come in, they always had their, you could come in, you buy the books right there on the spot. And I always got the Magic School Bus. And Goosebumps was always right there. And of course, with their merch, it's still available today on Amazon for $69 for anybody who's a fan. Wow. You can buy Slappy the Ventriloquist Dummy.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, it's really creepy looking, but honestly, it's pretty cool looking at the same time. And if you want it, it's out there on Amazon. Just go get it.
Don't buy anything.
I'm not buying anything. So we're saving up for a trip to Halloween Horror Nights and Disneyland in October. And I'm very excited for this. We're all excited. I'm actually wearing the shirt that we're supposed to be wearing for it. It's a Hellfire Club shirt, but it's Ghostbusters themed, and I'm super pumped for it. And I just wanted to try it, and I'd be like, yee. Just get a feel for it.
It's only a wash mine. Yeah.
Do you guys have anything interesting to speak, Charles?
Now, I mean, tangentially, it's related to the topic. Yeah, I know. I was like, I'm like trying to speak, and it's like, nope. Apparently, I didn't drink enough water. Anyway, right? Yeah. Wait, it's not on the microphone. Not on the microphone.
Keep the water away from the expensive equipment.
Anyway, and the next podcast only has just 3 hosts. Anyway, but
you'll just be Ghost Egon.
Yeah. Like, you killed me. Woo.
I'm sorry, I didn't believe you.
Oh, but Tish. Okay. Anyway, but related to this though, just in the fact that we're seeing the resurgence of so many like older like media. So for instance, Goosebumps is coming back. Ghostbusters is coming back. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they've kind of, well, with them they've more or less had like surges, like they'll come back, go away, come back, go away.
Yeah.
But though recently they started bringing back a lot of the toys from like the late 70s and early 80s. Mm-hmm. Like, one it was like several months back, I went into the toy aisle and I saw the original like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys that I grew up with
Like the
on the
original
shelves.
vintage figures
Yes, like
in
the
their
vintage look figures, and then they also had He-Man there, and they also had the Turtle Van and all this other stuff. And I literally had that moment where, and I think I messaged you guys with a picture, and I was like, "What year is it?"
Yeah,
because I feel like I have literally just stepped back in time, and I am, that little kid again staring at these toys up on the rack, and I find that really interesting that future generations now are being introduced to this stuff that we grew up with, that we loved, that was a part of our childhood, and I think part of that is because those kids that had those grew up and was like, hey, it would be cool if, the newer generation got to experience what we did.
We're in this weird nostalgia era of toy making, movie making, we're in the era of of nostalgic productions. Whether it's old movies getting remade or series / movies that we grew up with are now either getting remade or getting sequels, series, etc. And then all those toys that we grew up with, well, let's bring it back for the new generation to see if they like it too. With all the retro collections for the real Ghostbusters, the TMNT toys, the He-Man toys, literally toy aisles nowadays are starting to look like toy aisles like they did 30 years ago. It's a weird era of nostalgia from those kids who grew up into either toy makers or into filmmakers. Hey, we like this stuff, let's see if this new generation will like this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really is fascinating to see this resurgence. And again, the same thing could be said for the topic of today, Goosebumps. The scary books are always going to have that resurgence because if it's a good read, it will make its roundabouts. And Goosebumps being made into a film, I never thought that would be possible. But when I saw that original trailer, I was actually really hyped for it because it did creep me out as a kid, but this looked fun. It reminded me of Jumanji, which again is another film that had its resurgence and even was recreated into a board game for today with all the new bells and whistles of tech. And it just really makes me wonder where we're going to go from here when it comes to 30 years, 50 years, 100 years from now. We're going to be long gone and these things are still going to be around.
Maybe the sequel trilogy will get some love from the kids nowadays growing up 30 years from now.
Oh, how dare you. No, I'm just
Written by Ryan Johnson.
All right, now that we've thoroughly blown out the microphone. but no, just seeing the future too as well of some of the toys and some of the media that they've been making now, it really does speak to those thoughts that we had as kids where we're like, this toy is cool, but what would have made it more awesome is if it, had this light up feature or if it did this or did that. And now that those kids have grown up and become toy designers and gotten into film and things like that, now we started seeing these things say, for instance, SH Figure Arts and how
Hot Toys.
Exactly, Hot Toys, how they make the figures that we in our heads imagined how these figures were, what I'm saying, or how we wanted them to be, and now they actually exist. And now that we're adults, we most of us probably have some expendable funds to be able to say I want to get that, and it's amazing to see that. And even there was that robotic the transforming Optimus Prime.
Yes, the
remember that
Optimus
one?
Prime.
Yeah, that still blows my mind that they went ahead and made that to work and actually transform and all that. Can you imagine maybe in 50 or 100 years? I mean, that thing will actually be able to walk around and have battles with other versions of it.
Dude, we're going to be replaced with the actual Transformers.
Or on the verge of Goosebumps, then you talk about Transformers, all the toys and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, for all of us collectors and all that, kids, don't ruin these toys. Are we? I mean, previous episodes we did talk about that one Sideshow Collectibles commercial with the guy. Oh God. I mean, I'm teetering. I mean, we all teeter oh man, should these toys, be open? Of course, we're definitely saving up for this trip, but I don't know what it is, fate or something.
The universe just knows we're trying to save up right now.
Yeah, we miss you at these stores. play, buy. It's like a John Carpenter's They Live and all that. Like, you have to put on consume, buy, reproduce and all. So it's just like, oh God, stop. I mean, it takes a lot of willpower to be like, oh.
It's like,
Come on, children. Play with your toys. Give us your money.
and
We're in a rehab period, is what it is.
we're trying to cut cold turkey on this. My wallet's sitting there screaming, no!
Yeah.
No or thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, they started showing all these images from, what was it, San Diego Comic-Con?
Yes.
And they, they'll show all this cool stuff and all these Star Wars things. And it's just like, okay, I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, don't need it. And then Hot Toys comes along and says, oh, hey, we're making like the giant vulture figure. We're making the Hydra Stomper. We're making all this other stuff. And I'm just like,
Naboo Starfighter?
Yes, the N1 Starfighter. I was like,
Oh my God.
it hurts.
That Hot Toys Buzz Lightyear figure I need, like, badly.
Oh yeah, I could just see you. You're just like shaking there with the wallet, the money's like falling out.
Well, I'm making this exception that if Disneyland by any chance has that Hot Toys figure, the deluxe version on the shelf, I'm buying it there. That way, it's justifying that one, I was gonna buy it anyways, and two, it's a Disney park merch that I'm taking home to remember this trip. So it's completely justified right there.
All I can say is that if Hot Toys ever makes the Republic Commandos, I don't care. I am buying them.
You're right. And speaking of Disney, with Disney now having Goosebumps coming out on Disney Plus and all that stuff, there has been talk of... So, like, we have the Haunted Mansion. We have the Haunted Mansion movie coming out, and every year, like, right when we're going to see the Nightmare Before Christmas takeover. And it kind of makes me wonder, and I want your guys' opinion on this. How cool would it be for the Halloween season from September to the middle of November? They swap it out for Goosebumps. We get live, like, animatronic adaptations of the Goosebumps characters taking over the Haunted Mansion.
Any children's horror theme, that's Disney property owned can honestly fit to the Haunted Mansion. Like, yes, there is the Nightmare Before Christmas. I mean, I would love to see the original idea, or just add the statue or characters of the Ichabod and the Headless Horseman, because that was originally supposed to be like a tie. Like, so I did look upon it because I was kind of curious when. The Imaginarium or Imagination documentary, they did something like where would that Headless Horseman and Ichabod Crane were supposed to be, fit into the original Haunted Mansion ride. So, finally, he got word of it. It was supposed to be added at the very end because when everyone, yes, obviously the Hitchhiking Ghosts were supposed to be, like, the last bit part of it, but, like, the real, like, whoa moment was supposed to be when the Headless Horseman laughs. And it was going to laugh at, and have, like, the pumpkin, and then it was going to, like, I don't know how the... thing was going to work, but it was going to, like, the pumpkin was going to, shoot over past the doom buggy and all, and then it was like, oh, okay. That would have been cool. I don't know. There's, what kind of horror theme, no, not horror theme, like Halloween theme.
Spooky, scary skeleton themes.
Yeah. I don't know, have Hades from Hercules.
Hocus Pocus, Halloween Town.
Hocus Pocus would be good. Halloween Town.
Actually, I haven't watched that.
Huh?
I haven't watched Halloween Town.
Neither have I. I mean, not the sequel, Return to Halloween Town, but yeah, I've seen it. It's nice. It stars Carrie Fisher's mom.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I still haven't watched Hocus Pocus either.
Have you seen Ernest Scared Stupid?
No.
No. Okay. We definitely watch that one.
I love that one.
Yeah.
I have reason to now. Like after working, assisting Doug Jones at Phoenix Fan Fusion, I'm like, okay, now we need to watch the original Hocus Pocus, and then we have the new one coming out in late September.
Definitely.
So I'm like, okay, I gotta watch these now.
One of the sisters' broom is the floor robots.
In the sequel, the sequel, yeah.
A Roomba?
Yeah.
What? She's flying on two Roombas. Like,
if you look at like the promotional images, yeah, because see at the end of the, I'm sorry, spoiler alert. I mean, for those who still haven't seen it, the first Hocus Pocus, she rides a vacuum cleaner.
Oh my! Oh wait, I think I remember seeing a picture of that.
I mean, those three, they're so. I mean, Sarah Jessica Parker, Bette Midler, and oh god, I forgot the other one's name.
Kathleen Najima.
They were so charismatic.
I love their sense of humor.
You know, yeah, we can't wait to see them return. What, September?
September 30th.
So September 30th, along with oh wait, no, that was with Wednesday and the Monsters. They're coming out that same month. And I mean, yeah, we're gonna be starting.
There's a lot of like horror themed streaming, like content just coming out with all the streaming.
You know,
platforms.
okay, so I know all right, we're kind of getting sidetracked with those movies and all, but I would say, just to add to those, I know the Monsters originally, they were supposed to, I mean, Rob Zombie would like to say, oh, this was definitely going to be for like streaming and Netflix, but I could just see due to the reception and all the comments that really got to him and the studio, I think it really did kick it to the streaming services. So I was just kind of like, hey, you know what, dude, if this was kind of going to be like, I would like to, you know, relate it to the Flintstones movie. Like, guys, it's a silly movie. Like, I you know, yeah, I kind of want to, if they release it in theaters, obviously not the Wednesday show or whatever, but definitely the Monsters. I would give Monsters a chance. That's just me.
Well, since it's going to go straight to Netflix and to, well, basically it's straight to DVD and straight to Netflix now. We do get those things sometimes where we get like a limited theatrical run for like Netflix movies like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if like maybe a weekend or two we see like the Monsters in a couple theaters around the area. Maybe like Cinemark will probably have it. Maybe AMC if we're lucky. But I kind of do hope we get a small theatrical release for the Monsters.
Yeah, or at least a special screening for it.
So yeah, for me with the Monsters, I definitely would give it a shot. At least take a look at it. But I think the thing though that threw, at least some people off was the fact that it was in color, because the Monsters originally was black and white. What they did was, if you've ever seen any of the behind the scenes, they always had super exaggerated colors so that way it would come through more, like it would look better in black and white, the actual sets. And so what they ended up doing was looks like they took that style but then brought it into color. And I think that it being in color is what's throwing off some people, at least, because they're used to it being in black and white. And somebody actually did like a fan edit of the trailer.
I saw someone did it. I haven't watched it yet.
Yes, where they made it black and white, and also I think they added a bit of film grain to it. And people were saying this is a lot better. Like, it actually looks more the part, I guess, air quotes if you will, of the Monsters. And people were saying that they were enjoying it. That like, okay, this actually looks more ideal. So I'm thinking if they were smart, they might come up with a version where they can put it in black and white with a film grain.
Or just tint your TV.
Or you could do that too. You could do that too. Yeah.
Now, one thing I find very interesting, because I saw that original trailer and it did bounce between vivid colors and black and white, and that's probably the one thing that confused me the most. Like, by story wise, I'm assuming it's just like an origins of them meeting together and making the start of their family.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing that's just really throwing me off. It's the colors. Like, I think it looks great, but if you're going to stick with black and white or color, just stick with one or the other. Don't try to bounce it between the two. You know what I mean? I will give it a shot. If it is in theaters, I would like to go see it and just have fun with it.
Right.
And on that note, because you guys have convinced me so, I will be making a Jack Black cosplay. But I will be
Do it, man. Do it.
Finally.
I will be doing the Goosebumps version of Jack Black. But here's the funny thing. You
see that fence? Stay on the other side.
Let me tell you about Steve King. Steve King wishes he could write like me. And nobody ever talks about the fact that I made more books than him! Way more books!
We all want to see Vinny do all Jack Black.
Can't you see he's the man? Let me hear you applaud. He is more than a man. He's a shining golden god.
YouTube copyright.
But I am, ironically enough, I already have all the clothing for R.L. Stein from the Goosebumps movie,
really? Yeah.
which is weird. I was looking at my wardrobe, I'm like, wow, I'm all ready to go. I just need a book and a dummy.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to be working on that in the future. And I wanted to bring this up because it was just a weird coincidence that Goosebumps was having a resurgence. And I'm glad I got to have this fun conversation with you guys about the history of it and just sharing all of our opinions and how we got started in our little horror film genres through something as simple as Goosebumps. And it's not really even that simple. It's a time capsule of just getting kids into books that scare us but make us grow up into becoming brave adults. And, you know, if you guys ever get a chance to read the books or want to go back and read the nostalgia of it, I recommend go picking up a novel yourself. With that being said, you guys, this was a fun podcast episode to bring up. I am your host, Vinny, aka VCG Cosplay, with my friends
Danny?
Joe and Charles.
This has been the Petty Cash Podcast, and remember, slow down and chew your food.